This video, I'm going to show you how to use your calculator to do confidence intervals. I'm going to do the two problems that we did in the video about interval estimation. So you want to get those PowerPoint slides so that you can look at them. The first one is about biologists studying the healing of skin wounds, and you're given 18 pieces of data. So there are two ways that you can do this, and I'm going to show you both. The first one is that you can, and this is the best way to do it, but I want to show you the other way so that when you're given an X bar and not data, you know how to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to enter this into a list. So let me clear out list 1 because that's the one I want to use. And I'm going to pause the video, enter all the data in, and this is a good time for you to also pause the video and enter all of your data. Okay, so now I have all of my data entered into list 1. So now I'm going to hit the stat key. And this time I'm going to go all the way over to tests, and this is where we do hypothesis testing, and this is where we do confidence intervals. And the interval I want is the Z interval, which is number 7 down here. So I'm going to arrow down to 7. I'm going to use the Z interval. Whoops, I arrowed down too far. I'm going to be at 7. Z interval is what we use if they give us a population standard deviation, okay, and that's what we have here. So we'll hit enter, and it gives us two choices. Normally you'll use the stats where you'll enter the standard deviation in the X bar and the N and your confidence level and have it calculated, okay? So I could do that. I had figured out the mean before. I could just put in the mean that I figured out here and the population standard deviation, put 18 here and go through it. And anytime you're given a problem where they just give you the X bar and the N and the population standard deviation sigma, that's what you're going to do. This is a slightly different case because in this case we have data. So I'm going to tell it that we have data, and now what it wants to know is what's my population standard deviation, which in this case is 8, and it wants to know what list I have it in. It defaults to list 1, and I do have it in list 1. So I'm going to go down and give it a confidence level, and I want a 95%, so I'll do 0.95. And then I'll arrow down and I'll have it calculate it. And there's the interval that it calculates. And you see that's the same X bar that we had figured out when we did it in the problem on the slide. Okay. The next problem I want to do, let me clear all this out and let me clear my key press history. The next problem I want to do is the problem with how many people had kids. And that is towards the end of the PowerPoint slides because I want to show you how to do a population proportion confidence interval. So in this, we're just going to go straight to the tests, and we're going to go down to 1 prop Z int. That means one proportion, just one sample proportion, and it's a Z interval. Okay, that's what we will always use for our population proportion confidence intervals. So we'll hit enter, and it asks for X and N. Now X is the number of what we call successes. In this problem that we're looking at, we asked people if they had kids or didn't have kids. And because we want to know how many people had kids, having kids is what we label as success. Okay? If what we wanted to know was the proportion of people who didn't have kids, then not having kids would be labeled as success. So look for what you're building your population proportion for, and that'll tell you what quote-unquote success is. It's just a term we use. And so in that, we had 124 people that had kids out of 200 people. And we want a confidence interval that's 0.99. We want to be real confident. So we're going to calculate that. And it'll give us back the p-hat and the n. That information that it gives you back is a really good double check to make sure that you input things correctly. And I suggest always doing these things twice just to make sure you get everything input correctly. Okay? So that is how you do confidence intervals on the calculator.